things are not looking good in Trump world. And you can tell that things are not looking good in Trump world because they're freaking the out over this. Let's take a look. Let's do some poll watch and we'll talk about Seltzer.
And this race, Rick, I mean, it is as close as ever.
Yeah, good morning, Janae. Our ABC News Ipsos poll has Kamala Harris just out this morning in 49-46 lead over Donald Trump. That's just a tick tighter than last week when we had the lead at 4 points, but it's all well within the margin of error. And narrowing into the 7 battleground states, guess what? Nothing changes. An identical lead, 49-46 across the 7 battlegrounds. But inside the individual battlegrounds, we still see a little bit of a different story. These are our 538 polling averages. Harris leading in Michigan and Wisconsin, but by less than a percentage point. Right now, trailing narrowly in the polling averages everywhere else, including Arizona. That's 2.5 points. But again, all of this is within any polling margin of error, and there's new polls even out this morning that would suggest a tighter race, even if that's possible here. And there are signs of discontent everywhere, particularly among voters for Donald Trump. But among all voters, 74% say that the country is on the wrong track going into Election Day. That includes half of Harris supporters, and wait for it, 98% of Trump voters say we are on the wrong track as a country. And 60% of voters say they are still dissatisfied with the candidates. And we finally found an area of bipartisan unity. 61% of Harris supporters and 57% of Trump supporters agree that they are dissatisfied with the candidates they are voting.
Damn, dog. I thought people loved Harris's campaigning. I thought that they thought that she was hot shit. That's crazy. I wonder why people are saying that. I wonder how we got here again, dude. How the f did that happen? Now, listen, and I've repeated this time and time again. She is not Hillary Clinton, okay? She doesn't have the metric ton of dissatisfaction, distaste, anger, resentment, hatred, which is why it was saying for the Democratic Party to be like, this is the candidate, and you're going to shut the f up, and you're going to vote for her. She didn't have that. She doesn't have that, which is why, you know, this is not the end all be all. Okay. Not the worst thing. She, however, is not a very good campaigner. She's just not. Doesn't have a lot of riz. She's black. America's racist. Oh, no, for sure. That definitely plays a role. America's also sexist too. But guess what? What do I always tell incels? Okay. You don't look at a situation that's like built against you and turn around and say, well, any guy can be 7. I do say that. You got to play to your advantages and you got to overcome your disadvantages. You know, that's it. I would never be like, oh, this person is a black woman, so she shouldn't run for president, especially if they have dope policies. You know what I mean? It don't matter. Like what? You think she didn't realize that America was racist and that she was a black woman running in a racist country? No, of course she knows that. What the f-? That's precisely the reason why she didn't do the I'm with her style bullshit in the way that Hillary Clinton did. Okay. I don't think the race is going to be close. I don't understand why they don't factor in the Supreme Court and Congress when they talk about the country being on the wrong track. No. Country being on the wrong track is an understandable predicament, understandable position for people to take. I mean, do you think the country's on the right track? I don't. You know what I mean? I don't think the country's on the right track. I get it. I get why people say that because it's not on the right track. The wheels have fallen off this bitch.
Voting on this week.
Wow. And Rick, as for the battleground states, what are the candidates eyeing?
You consistently said that Hillary ran a bullshit campaign. What was it about her that made you a supporter of her back in the day? What do you mean? I was incredibly critical of Hillary Clinton and talked about how dog shit she was. But I also understood what it would look like for Donald Trump to be president. And I was right. And that's why I was like, yeah, no, you can't, you know. I like that you said a major supporter of Hillary Clinton. I was like, no, this is unacceptable. You cannot have Donald Trump become president. That is devastating for the country's future. And I was right. Okay.
As their likeliest paths to victory at this point.
Yeah, and you heard Selena lay it out a little bit, but if the polls lined up exactly where things are in the Electoral College, if the polls are right, which is a big if, you'd have Donald Trump winning right now, 287 electoral votes. That's more than 270. But the polls, of course, are often off a little bit. So here's the scenario that Selena was talking about, the blue wall. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, if they all go for Kamala Harris, that is 270 electoral votes exactly. That means the presidency for her. For Donald Trump, a couple of different paths, but the likeliest, let's say he carries Nevada and Arizona, where he's been leading in the polling averages, Georgia and North Carolina in the South, historically more Republican. He just needs one more state, And it could be any of the big three. Pennsylvania, the likeliest and the biggest prize. That is the biggest battleground, and it is close to a must-win as we see for both candidates. There's agreement on that this year as well.
And Rick, we were talking about this behind the scenes this morning, that poll out of Iowa that now shows Harris leapfrogging, leading Trump. 3%. What can we...
So this is because Seltzer is a very reputable pollster. People were looking at Iowa being deep red normally. People were looking at this poll and being like, oh, it'll be +5. If it's +5 Trump, that is good for Kamala, right? That means that there is a lot of still resentment for Donald Trump from the base. Maybe some people are not going to go out and vote. And people were looking to extract some kind of data from this that would be helpful for a national snapshot of what the broader electorate looks like. So for this poll to just come out +3 for Kamala Harris, it was nutty. Guy for interpreting the Iowa Seltzer poll, Trump +0 to 5, great sign for Harris. Trump 6 to 7, solid result for Harris. Trump 8 to 9, +8 to 9, neutral. Mirrors close Rust Belt polling. Trump +10, not good for Harris. Anything more than 12 and is Jover. This is before the poll came out. That's what the analysis was, because Iowa is supposed to be super red. Maybe not super red, but red enough. Iowa allowing huge innovations in ass map science. Huge asterisk, +3 within the margin of error. So it was better to call this a dead even poll than Harris ahead by 3. It doesn't matter. The point is, this is unexpected. This doesn't mean that Texas is going to turn blue or whatever. Okay. This doesn't mean that at all. What this simply says is that Trump's base in deep red places, at least in the middle of the country, is kind of withering away a little bit in comparison to places like Florida, where he's obviously cooking. Okay. I don't think Kansas is going to turn blue. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm simply saying that things are not looking good in Trump world. And you can tell that things are not looking good in Trump world because they're freaking the out over this. And early voting data showing a lot of women coming out and voting also does not look good for the Trump world, because the Trump world keeps complaining about how men need to go out and vote. Please go out and vote. Iowa voters in 2024 for some reason.
Black woman is speaking. Listen and learn. Listen and learn.
Do you think the other big pollsters are just hurting with a conservative Harris lead? That's the assumption right now. That's and pollsters have said as much. They do have a Trump bump that they baked in because they don't want to it up. I'm really glad it's close. They keep saying it's tied. It will get more people to vote. Remember in 2016, they said Hillary had a 90% chance to win, and I think it hurt her chances. A lot of people just decided not to vote. Yeah, there were a lot of issues there. I think the lack of motivation to go out and vote wasn't because Hillary's definitely going to win. I think it was people also despising her and despising Donald Trump too, but definitely despising her. Let's continue.
Glean from that.
Yeah, well, just for starters, remember where Iowa landed last time. That was not particularly close, about an 8 or 9 point win for Donald Trump. And it's possible that this poll is on to something powerful. It could be an outlier, it could be off. But if it's right, not just about Iowa, but about some other upper Midwestern states like Wisconsin and Michigan, if we start to see women break more heavily toward Kamala Harris, that might change the landscape on election night. We'll have to wait and see, Janae.
Very interesting. Rick, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Libs are libbing the up. Other key findings in the Iowa poll. Independent women back Harris by a 28-point margin. Senior women support her by more than a 2-to-1 margin, 63% to 28%. 97% of Dems support Harris, while only 89% of Republicans support Trump.